dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big Corvette.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 6 of the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for real-life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money. I am your host, Josh Levine, and I am joined here by my longtime friend and my co-host, Travis Hatch. And today, we have an awesome guest for y'all. One of the most genuine humans I've ever had the pleasure of knowing and calling a friend, my man, Alex Robles. Alex, what's going on, man? How you doing?
That was so kind.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. Got my coffee and my water, and I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I had to give you an excellent intro. Alex has been one of my confidants after the passing of my dog. He was the first one to bring me a gift of her. You lost your dog recently too.
Yeah, about a month before, I would say, you lost yours.
Yeah.
Or so. It was just weird because there's a transition where you realize your dog is sick, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to do everything for my dog. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be easier when it happens. And then it happens. You're like, it doesn't get easy. Your whole world comes crashing down.
Yeah.
And you just watch New Girl for 7 weeks long and hide in your bedroom.
Yeah. And cry at everything.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I dropped the ball twice when I was at work. I had a new client and one client that I just totally forgot because I forgot to put him in my calendar because the day I was talking to him, we were scheduling for her son to come in, and that was the day I had to take Chewy in to
I was there for that. I think they came in and I was like, he's not here today.
Yeah, and I was just like, that could have been I don't know where he is. And then you called me and you're like, hey man. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was I understood the reality of what the emotions that happen. So I was like, oh god, he's going through it now. All right, well, how can we make this a little easier?
Oh, dude, it was amazing. You started this cascade of people just giving me gifts and pictures of Luna, and you gave it to me, and I was like, okay, keep it together. And then I got home and I just cried forever.
One of my friends gave me a pillow that had a picture of me and Chewy on it. It says friends forever. And as soon as she gave it to me, I was ugly crying in the middle of the ghetto. I was like, oh, I love it so much.
You heard it here first on this podcast. Guys who fight also cry and watch New Girl too.
Crying is cool, just so you know.
Yeah, bodybuilders and very aggressive humans and people who fight other people and punch them in the face cry.
You gotta.
Gotta. So right. You punch people in the face. Well, at least you used to. Or you kick people in the face.
There's no better feeling in the world than successfully kicking somebody in the head and making them feel sad about it. Straight up, you can do anything. You can have sex with your fucking celebrity crush or whatever, and that's cool. But when there's someone especially who's taller and you just get a foot connection to their head and you just see them get sad, you're just like, gotcha, bitch.
I did it.
Yeah, there's no better feeling.
That's awesome.
No better feeling in the world.
So you've been a fighter for most of your life, right? Tell us about how this all started. What's your background?
So my background is in traditional martial arts. Started with Taekwondo. I did that for 28 years. Started when I was 4, 5, just as a little kid, because my dad was actually a martial artist. So he was he started with karate, and then karate is a little bit different, the sparring style wise. As soon as you get a point, you have to stop, and then you have to reset again. And he didn't like that. He wanted to continuously fight, and so he found himself into a Taekwondo studio when he was living in Europe, and then that just transitioned to him teaching his kids, and we had no other choice essentially when we were kids. You just put your kids in sports, you put in martial arts or whatever, and then we just, my brother and I stuck with it since, because it was just felt like normal. You know what I mean? You just I don't know. You go to school, you don't think about oh, why do I have to? You just have to go to school because it's a social standard. In my house, you go to school, you go to training, you go home, and that was just the normalcy in my house. So when you get to a certain age, I would say 12 is when you either kind of just do Taekwondo just to do Taekwondo, or you get into sport Taekwondo. And sport Taekwondo is when you want to go into more sparring competitions, and you get into this different class. There's US Open, then Olympics and World Championships and stuff like that. So when you go to practice, you don't really wear a traditional uniform anymore. You just wear what you wear to the gym, and you start cutting weight, and you start getting in the weight class, and you start taking just a little bit more serious route than you would just I go to Taekwondo on Tuesday and Thursday nights just to, you know, exercise or whatever you want to use it for. So when I was 12, that's when it like split into, all right, I want to start taking it more serious. I'm better at it than I thought I was, like sparring wise, and I started winning more. And so it just kind of trajected me on this like path of taking it serious, training, adding more to my training, like running. We didn't really weightlift back then because I was fucking 12 and you don't really.
They still thought it was bad for you back
Yeah,
then.
you just didn't know. We just genuinely didn't know how to lift for sport back then. So all we did was just like go for runs, like body weight stuff, push-ups, sit-ups, crunches, a lot of air squats, and then you just spar and just do specific Taekwondo drills, and then you do that like in the morning before school, go to school, go back to training at night, and that was just like my life for 20-something years.
When did you start coaching?
Well, it was a transition because I was teaching Taekwondo. So it's really easy to like when you start training, then you start like teaching like sparring classes or like just traditional classes. And so I saw like a niche for like group training and stuff like that, making a difference. So I would start doing private Taekwondo lessons, and like, cause you don't make any money as a Taekwondo instructor. It's like maybe $10 an hour and you work 4 hours a shift or however like the school's open, so you're not making any money. So in order to make extra, you start like telling people like, oh hey, let's work outside of like, you should like work on your technique, let's do this. And then that transition, when I was about 20, people started asking me like some of my friends like, oh, I want to learn how to like do some kickboxing and stuff like that, because I did boxing in between, which is probably a pretty important part of the story because like that's what I do now. But like when I was like a teenager, I started cross training in boxing, kickboxing, stuff like that, because Taekwondo fighters were really good with our feet. But so the basic rules of Taekwondo is you can kick to the body, you can kick to the head, and you can punch to the body. You can't kick to the leg, can't punch to the face. So specific rules. So it was my dad's idea for me to go see a boxing coach in Costa Mesa, California, and just to get my head movement down just a little bit better, because like if you can move your feet, we do move our head, but like enough to just avoid. But he wanted me to get just a little bit more comfortable with head and upper body movement. So
was that to like further improve your Taekwondo?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or was it like, did you have thoughts of like mixed martial arts or anything like that?
Specifically at that point, was everything I did was to improve my Taekwondo. So I even did ballet, I did Pilates, I did yoga, I did all these things just to work on my flexibility, strength. Plus, there's like a lot of beautiful women in ballet and Pilates and yoga, so I wasn't mad about going.
You're like 20 years old,
Yeah.
like, I can do it.
Just
Okay,
a huge
I'm cool.
perv, and I was just like, oh, I'll stay. Like respectful perv, you know what I mean? Not crossing any boundaries, but yeah. And then I started doing boxing, and then like I knew I was just using boxing as a sense of cross training. I never did it in my mind that like, oh, I'm gonna get into MMA, I'm gonna get into kickboxing, I'm gonna get into this. So it was all specifically for that. And then there wasn't like a social media outlet for like posting videos of boxing and stuff. It was like MySpace and Facebook at the time. But people in my inner circle like knew that I was like boxing and stuff like that. Like maybe some like pictures would be posted. And so people say, oh, I've always wanted to learn how to box. Or I've always wanted to learn how to like kick and stuff. So then I was like, oh, well, meet me at my Taekwondo studio and like I can just show you basic shit. So it started when I was about 20, starting doing like teaching Taekwondo and then taking Taekwondo fighters and, you know, doing private lessons. And then that led to like my friends wanting to learn how to box or kickbox or whatever. And then that just kind of projected into what I created now.
That's awesome.
So,
I like what you do now. It's
So
really
when
cool.
do you think you like started to act, like coach, you know, when was like your first like client
so
coaching?
It's like a 2-part series on that, because I grew up in California, then I moved to Colorado 6 years ago, and then I was doing it like just kind of on the side in California because my main thing was just training. So like I would just do it on the side, not really as a job, but I was like, I had 5 people that every, you know, now and again I would train. But when I moved to Colorado, that's when I started taking it more serious, because I started working at like UFC gym, had just bought LA Boxing at that time. And so I was just looking for a job. I was working at like a restaurant and all this stuff while I was in school too when I came back, or when I moved here. And I was like, my main goal when I moved to Colorado is because I made Team USA Taekwondo in the Olympic Training Center was in Colorado Springs. but I didn't want to live in Colorado Springs because it's Colorado Springs, no offense. And so my friend, shout out Brian Gallagher and his dad, they owned a Taekwondo studio in Littleton. And so I just moved to Littleton, trained with them there, went to the Olympic Training Center on the weekends. And then I was like, I need a job that I don't hate, where I just go and I'm a bartender, bar back, restaurant kind of thing. And so I just applied to UFC gym because one of my friends worked at one in California. He's like, yeah, dude, you get a job easy. It's just holding mitts, group fitness. You've already done it before. Like, it's pretty much like teaching a Taekwondo class, but for everyday people, and you just kind of make it your own. So I started with UFC gym, and then UFC gym, the location in Littleton shut down, and they moved everybody to Lone Tree. They had more coaches than they had client or like members and clients and stuff. So a lot of us that were new, we just got let go. And then that's when I worked at Streets Fitness. That was in Arvada. It was on Warden 64th. It's now an animal hospital, but it used to be a boxing, kickboxing gym. Where that 24-hour fitness you worked at.
I know exactly where that is.
So before that 24-hour fitness was there, it was that group fitness gym. And then this is a story for a different time, but there's a guy, the owner, Brian, originally, he was one of the best dudes. He's the one who kind of helped me with my career and how to do it, like how to get clients and how to like be more of like a business person. Cause I was just like teaching boxing and kickboxing classes and group fitness. And then I just didn't really care about anything else after that. He's like, oh, like all these people want to work with you doing mitts. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do mitts. Like I can, but I didn't really have like a format for it. I was just like, jab, cross, all right, move. And it was just really unorganized, you know what I mean? And then he kind of helped me like just get clients, like how to sell myself to get a clientele. And that's when I was like getting more confidence in myself and like becoming like an actual like trainer and stuff. And then it's when I actually met Gio at V3 after the gym shut down and it pretty much just went out of business. And I met Gio at V3. It's like where we all came like from V3 to Relive. And Gio actually, he former pro boxer, and he just had this like structure on how to coach fitness boxing and not just boxing for fighters and stuff like that, and how to have organization and a structure and like learn how to do combinations. And it's more like fitness boxing for everyday people, because I knew how to like hold mitts for like throw a punch, throw a kick, but there was no organization whatsoever. So it's like, for example, somebody coming in and wanting to work out with you and just be like, all right, let's deadlift. All right, we're done with deadlift. Let's go do some shoulder press over there. And like, you're still working them out, but there's no structure. Like, what am I doing? Like,
like you need a plan.
Exactly.
That's organized.
Yeah. You just don't like, all right, well, let's just throw it across again. Or like, oh, let's learn this. And it's just like, I had no real structure on how to do something. Cause like training a fighter and training everyday people are two totally different.
Well, yeah, I was going to think of that. Also, like you had only been up to this point pretty much just a fighter. So like you'd been told what to do to get really good at fighting. Yeah. To get you to a level where you could potentially, you were en route to go to the Olympics. Yeah. And now you're trying to like, okay, how do I scale that back?
How do I
apply it to normal people?
Yeah. So we're trying to say like, how do people learn, like have fun doing boxing and kickboxing and all that stuff without like having to go like that fighter out? Because a lot of the gyms at the time, like in California especially, there was like HB Ultimate and all these other gyms that like it was pretty much geared towards like fighters, and then they had group fitness and stuff like that, but no one was really tapping into like just boxing for cardio or something like that. People would just do a group fitness class and then they leave, and then so it kind of took a different turn. And then when I met Gio, like I saw like UFC gym had a decent structure of that. And then what me and Gio did for a little bit, we did Get Fit Punching, which was pretty much his idea. He just brought me on and like he helped me like learn how to turn this into a business plan versus just hold mitts for people, have them fucking hit me for 6 hours a day, So it actually, like, shout out to Gio Merceron. He pretty much helped me grow my career into something that I know how to sell versus like, yeah, you want to come hit shit? Like, cool. And then now it's like, I have a way to explain it. It's like fitness boxing. It's a different version of cardio, get you off the treadmill, do something fun. And then the goal is to just like, yeah, you do learn how to throw a proper punch. Technique is important to just avoid injury, but I'm not trying to turn you into a fighter. I'm not going to say like, go to freaking, downtown Denver and get in a fight and then you'll see what you learn. So.
Although that being said, like some of the people that you and Gio coach at Relive, like there's some girls in there and I'm like, dude, I would not want to fuck with them.
I have one client, Casey. I always forget what she does for a living, but it's literally, it's funny because I was like, someone commented on a video like I posted like last year of her. She's like, "Yo, what is she training for like a fighter?" I was like, "Dude, she's like an accountant. She's training for Tuesday meetings." Like, no, like she's not a fighter, but like she can throw she's very talented. And then I have this guy Todd Jackson who's like 60, who he hits so hard and he just knows how to use his body. I've seen him
too. Yeah, and he looks like a boxer.
Oh yeah.
So most of your clients were they into either martial arts or were they into boxing before, or like what do you think most commonly makes people want to either get into fighting or get into learning how to throw mitts?
Well, majority of my clientele, when I've had the same clients for like 5 years and they follow me everywhere I go. And like, I've never, cause I was in school, so I was only working part-time. When I graduated, I opened my clientele more. But it started with like those group classes. So like boxing classes and kickboxing classes, and then it's one thing to do a combination on a bag because like the bag doesn't hit back, it doesn't move, you can kind of just get it, and then to do it on
I hate it.
Yeah,
it looks boring as hell.
Yeah, it's not for, if that's why you have to add certain things to a group fitness like boxing class. That's why it's not just the whole time spent on a bag. Like you get up, you do like body weight exercises or just like active rest, as we call it, but like you spend so much time on a bag and you don't really know how good your technique is unless like I'm standing right next to you, and like it's a lot harder to gauge. Once you get on the mitts, it's way easier to gauge like distance, timing, and all this stuff. So once I did mitts with everybody, like certain people, it sold itself. I didn't have to do anything.
Really
I was
cool.
like, "Yo, what are you doing tomorrow?" "Oh, all right, meet me here at 3:00. Let's do some mitts." And once they started doing mitts, they're like, "Can I come back next week?"
This is way more fun. Yeah.
And they just literally stayed consistent with me. Like I've had maybe 3 people quit only because they moved away.
Yeah.
And like everyone has stayed loyal. And like the funniest thing is like, I don't know if it's still there, but where we work, there was, or where we used to on Warden 64, there was a 9 rounds, which is like the group fitness gym.
It's not there anymore.
Yeah, it was there. And I think 2 or 3 of my clients left me to go work out there just because it was more affordable. It was just like, oh, it's like $75 a month and I get unlimited classes with boxing.
They come back?
They came back like 2 weeks later, like, dude, it sucked. Like the boxing was just not that good. And I feel bad because like in that area of like Arvada, Wheat Ridge, there's not many boxing gyms or fitness boxing gyms. There's we're Justin Gagey, UFC fighter. There's like, he trains like 3 doors down from where we are at Relive.
Really?
Yeah. He's really close. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But he's
at Easton, right?
Or he was at Easton, but with his coach, I'm blanking on his name right now. And he's a fucking talented boxing coach. He trains like Rose Namajunas, Justin Gagey, and like all these top fighters, but that's just like a fighting gym. Like, I don't think they have any.
You don't have Gem Pop going there.
Yeah, no, it's like, and I think his time is mainly spent with like making the gear that he has, like Onyx, and then training his fighters and stuff like that. So he's a far more talented boxing coach than I'll ever be. But he's got a specific
also training fighters. Yeah.
Exactly, he's got a different demographic, so it's hard for them to find. I think most of the UFC gyms here actually like even closed except for one. So,
yeah, I don't think there are any.
Yeah, so one in like Westminster or something, and that's so.
Yeah, there's one like over on the east side, I think.
So they have a decent structure of like what I pretty much do, but when people try to like explore other like avenues of boxing and fitness boxing, they always come back because it's like, my personality is not like I'm not
people want to spend time with you.
Yeah, I just make it fun. It's like you're going to work out with your friends and you're shooting the shit, and then you're unloading everything from your work week on me. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Bitch,
you get to office. You get to hit people.
Yeah.
And like they're okay and it feels good.
Yeah.
The other thing that you do, and I think this is something that I want to drive home for a lot of people because I don't know how commonly known this is, but but you train at least one client who has Parkinson's.
Yes.
And I don't know how commonly known it is that boxing is really good for people, or at least throwing mitts is really good for people with Parkinson's.
Yeah. So pre-COVID, I had 2 programs, and then like my everyday clients. I had a youth program, and I still have my youth program, and I still have my Parkinson's program, but they just kind of changed because of COVID. I have one client right now who has Parkinson's. His name is Hans. He is the funniest dude on the planet. Like, he swears more than I do. And I was like, dude, that was a good start. He's like, I got plenty of time to fuck it up. Like, don't worry. And so he's like, even if he's my only, I work maybe 30 minutes away. His training sessions are just 30 minutes long. And if he's my only client in the morning, I'll still show up. Like, he makes it fun. He's great. But yeah, there's so what boxing does for people with Parkinson's, it just kind of helps like synapses in the brain fire a little bit more. Real quick, I also have a degree in biology from Metro. Go fucking Roadrunners or whatever. So the way I use my degree is like not in a traditional sense, because I did mainly go the neuroscience route, because I didn't want to be like a lab tech or like a neurologist or a neurosurgeon or anything. I wanted to bridge the gap between exercise and neurological disorders, because I feel exercise is a very underrated medicine still today, because there's all these like, even we had a conversation before the pod, like nutrition, there's always like a fat burning pill. There's like all these medications to stop, tremors so people with Parkinson's, what happens is they don't suffer from Parkinson's itself. They suffer from the side effects of Parkinson's, which is like the tremoring, the freezing, the respiratory issues that come with it. So what boxing does is it keeps their brain and their mechanical skills firing at the same time. So they're not just throwing punches. Like, Hans has to think. Like, I give him combinations, slip, roll, body, and that comes with a sequence of punches that he has to do. So now he's working mechanically and he's working cognitively as well.
And he's also getting feedback.
Exactly.
When his hand hits yours,
yeah,
he gets feedback.
Yeah, and so it just helps with his tremoring. That's the majority of it, because you're working out what is essentially being attacked. For the most part, to put it in layman's terms. So like, you're fighting against the tremoring and the neurological like gap between your brain and your mechanics. So we're just kind of working that out. So he's able to move and think, okay, I have to use my brain, because he said I have to slip. Now my brain has to tell my hands to throw the punches, and then I have to move my body and then come back. So it all, like, he's told me that like his tremoring has gotten better. His balance, because like a lot of people with Parkinson's, they have like balance issues and stuff like that. So his balance has gotten better, his tremors have gotten smaller, and he's actually weaned himself off of like 90% of his medication that he was on before. So I was like,
that is
dude,
awesome.
That's so sick. So yeah,
that feels good. That
Yeah.
part as a coach feels really good.
Yeah, when people like come, it's not even, because I've had people who've like, we'll call obesity a disease. Like, they suffer from like crazy obesity, and they take all these like high blood pressure pills or like cholesterol and stuff like that, and they just start working out. And then over time, they're like, oh yeah, I haven't like had to take all this medication before. And so like, when people can start using exercise as medication, they see themselves not self-medicating in other places. You're like, dude, that's so sick. So
Yep. It feels really good as a coach.
Oh,
That's like, getting people results externally is one thing, but when you optimize someone's internal health, like fix the way their body works. It is really, really cool, because that means as much as people want to look good and feel good, they want to look good and feel good for a longer time.
Right. So that was the thing that like sells like the Parkinson's program, is that like there's no cure for it, unfortunately, but you can literally just give them a higher, longer quality of life.
Yep.
Too, because like you can be heavily medicated, but you're just sitting there heavily medicated.
Yeah.
And Parkinson's usually attacks people that are older. So what do they have to look for? Like, unless you're like grumpy old men and you just want to sit out front and like talk shit on kids, that's something to look forward to. I'm all about that. But
just
it's
sit
also,
on your stoop
yeah,
and talk shit.
Goddamn kids. Like, yeah, I can't wait for that. I do that now.
Like
but,
Dennis the Menace or
yeah,
something.
like Walter Matthau and grumpy old men. Like, I vision myself as that when I'm older, and I can't wait. But the thing is like when I was at Streets, we had a Parkinson's class. So it also gives them like a social hour, something to look forward to. They come in, they box, they get a good exercise, and they hang out with people their age with the same condition, and they just improve their quality of life right then. And so they don't have to be on as many medications as they are, and they get to come in, like, work out, and they get to just have like a feel good moment.
So, okay, while you're talking about all this, and I always, whenever I explain you to people, I do tell them, like, you're covered in tattoos, you're a fighter, you could seriously injure people. Your hands are probably hands and feet are probably registered as weapons, but you're the nicest, most genuine person I've ever met. So it kind of goes against a lot of stereotypes that most people have about fighters. Like, you watch UFC, you're like, okay, these two guys are just trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? So, like, are most fighters like you? I don't want to, like, generalize.
Yeah. Well,
but...
okay. So UFC is a little bit different because you have people that just want to sell fights, and what better way to sell fights is just talking shit.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So, but you also have people like the champion, like Khabib. He's the kind of guy who just says, like, I don't need to talk shit to sell a fight. People just want to watch me fight. So when him and Justin Gaethje were going to fight the last time, there was, like, no bad blood, no shit talking, no whatever. But it's also, like, where you grow up and how you are, kind of thing. Like,
and also at his stage, it's people want to see him lose.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he doesn't really have to sell a fight, but anybody who's, like, coming up has to, like,
yeah. So, like, Colby Covington, if any of you've heard of him, he's never gonna hear me say this, so I'm not worried about it. But, like, unless he watches this podcast, so shout out to Colby Covington if you do.
Super sick.
But you can come on if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where he's apparently, like, a really nice guy in real life, but he puts his persona on, like, this MAGA persona, this, like, the people's champ, or I don't know what his gimmick is, but he just
kind of like WWE style.
Yeah, he has this, like, I don't know. He just has that, but, like, I think because I came from traditional martial arts, it starts and ends with respect. So you bow in, you bow out, no matter what, and it's always yes sir, no sir, kind of thing. And so when I was a teenager, I was definitely a knucklehead. Like, I would go to, like, punk rock and hardcore shows, and then, like, go to Del Taco and get in fights after. But it was nothing like, I try to be a nice person, especially towards, like, my inner circle. You know what I mean? But, like, I also maybe suffered from, like, that Napoleon complex because I'm small, and I was even smaller than I was before because I fought at 139 pounds. So damn. I would walk around, like, 145, 150, and then cut. So, like, I'd always think people wanted to fight me because I was small. And so, like, I always had to just, like, feel like I had to defend myself. And, like, I mentioned before, like, I have an older brother who's, like, 6 foot, maybe 6'2", 2 something. And he had, like everyone else, like, a attitude problem when he was an adolescent. So he would, like, get in a fight with somebody, in an argument with somebody his size, his weight and everything. He's like, nah, this isn't a fair fight. You have to fight my brother. And they always think, like, oh, you got a fucking bigger brother? Like, whatever, pussy. And then, like, he's like, no, you got to fight him. And, like, I'm, like, 5 foot nothing on a good day, 139 pounds. I'm like, why do I have to fight him? He's like, yeah, because it's a more even fight. Plus, like, I don't want to. I was like, God damn it. So, like, he would always instigate all these fights, and then he'd have me do it. And just because it was, like, for his own entertainment or whatever. And, like,
because he was your big brother.
Yeah. And stuff. But, like,
that's what older brothers do.
Yeah. But I think, like, teaching Taekwondo, like, that kind of, like, grounded me into, like, I can't be a hypocrite. I can't tell these kids, like, oh, you can't fight outside of the studio, and, like, me go get into a fight, and then, like, be a good person, and then me, like, disrespect people or whatever. So that kind of humbles you.
I think from, like, the stereotype side of things too, is it's like the fighting and the aggression is coming from you being an adolescent male. It's not coming from training fighting.
Right.
And if anything,
it's an outlet.
Yeah, it's an outlet, and probably teaches you, like, the more you feel competent with, like, your hands and fighting, the less insecure you're going to be. Therefore, the less you're going to need to strike out at people.
Exactly. I always tell people, like, especially, like, the kids that I used to go to school, like, before COVID, I used to go to schools and, like, talk to kids and stuff like that. And, like, I always say, like, the toughest guy in the room is usually the quiet one, not the one who's like, oh, like, talking shit, like, oh, fuck you, I'm a bad motherfucker. Like, no, you do that to sell fights or whatever, but if you're just, like, a regular dude, like, you don't need to be vocal about how tough you are, because if you need to be tough, like, you'll, it'll come out. Which I have a side story, really funny story. When you first started working at Relive, we always, me and Evan and Scuba Steve, and I think Tom was working there at the time, and you had came in, and like I think I saw you because I used to work at 24 Hour Fitness where you worked. Oh, so I saw you, but like I was like, I think he works at 24 Hour Fitness. But we had this like jokingly no new friends mentality. We're like, well, who the fuck is this guy? And I was like, well, he comes into our house, he's got to introduce himself. Oh, I'm not just gonna walk up and introduce myself. That's not how it works. And then I can't remember who said it, but it was I think Tom was trying to instigate something. He
told me not to introduce myself to you.
And he was just like, yeah, you should just like shoulder shrug Alex as you walk by. And everyone was like, that may not be a good idea, because I was just kind of kick you in the head right after that. I was like, I'm not some like asshole who's just going to start shit just to start shit. But like we jokingly had this like, well, I'm not going to introduce myself first. Like, no, he's got to do it.
Tom's such an asshole. Tom was playing both sides. Tom was like, dude, don't talk to Alex. First of all, he doesn't shut up. And second of all, he's like just not a nice guy. He's probably not going to talk to you. Don't even worry about him. Just like ignore him. And at that point, he did tell me that. He was like, you should probably just like shoulder shrug him on your way by. Like, you're way bigger than him. And I hadn't seen you like train at that point either. So I was like, oh yeah. Like, what? Not like I was actually going to do it.
Yeah.
But then I saw you train one day, and I was like, okay, I thought I was afraid of Gio, and like I could be two of the nicest guys I've ever met in my entire life. But and then I saw you kick, and I was like, oh, he's scary.
Well, at that point, I was like Evan and I were just like talking to Tom. I was like, are you just wanting to see a fight happen? Like, are you just this bored and stuff? And then like you came into work, and like,
of course he is.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm trying. Oh, I'm Alex, and then like it just kind of like we hit it off pretty well after that, because like our personalities at the gym all lined up. There's like a few people that come and work into the gym that like they're there and they're nice and you say what's up, but you just don't like really you click, but it's just more like a friendly,
they just do their thing,
work environment. Exactly. And then but going back to your original question, it was just like there is a stereotype I think with professional fighters and like the MMA kind of scene, but I think it's not who they really are. You know what I mean? I think most people who are genuine, if you're a street fighter, then yeah, you're probably an asshole, and you just...
If you were in the movie Never Back Down, you're probably an asshole.
Yeah, if you are Cobra Kai and you're not Miyagi-Do, then you're probably an asshole. But if you're just like, you grew up and you just get this confidence, like if I get cut off in traffic and like, or if I'm hardly ever there, but if I'm at a bar and somebody wants to fight me, I'm more than likely not gonna fight him, because I was like, I don't have anything to prove, and like,
yeah, and like,
you know,
you could really hurt somebody
if like I want, like I'm, you know, I always had the mentality that was like, there's always somebody that is better than you, or there's always someone that can beat you. So if like the one time I go and get into a street fight, and the dude's got cauliflower ear and I didn't notice it, and he was like just fucks me up in front of people, I'm like, oh shit, like that was the wrong guy to fight out of everybody here. But no, like I've always tried, like there was definitely a transition when I was like maybe 10 years ago from like having something to prove, being small, and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be fine, then to just being like, I don't give a shit what people think about me. Like I'll just train and do what I want to do, and just like, and I like who I am more as a nicer person than I was like trying to be this like want to be tough.
It doesn't
guy.
Make you happy.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
like
being like aggro all the time.
Yeah, like getting tattooed and stuff. Like I was literally, I never like. Some of my friends back home would be like bullshit, but I never thought I was gonna like be this. I got carried away a little bit. Like I knew.
Yeah, you're covered like head to toe.
I was gonna. Yeah, and I'm like, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're running out of space. I'm like, that's kind of the point. Like, you know, I'm getting like, this is so stupid because I already have my hands done, but I have an appointment next week because I have this gap right here that bugs me.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I have this gap, and so we're filling this gap in because I'm just like, I can't have this gap here. So it's like once you start down this trajectory, then it's just going to keep going. And then, you know, I know eventually I'm going to get my throat done. Like I already have my neck done. So like I have to, because I'm almost 35 and like getting tattooed sucks. It hurts. It takes forever.
It didn't used to.
2 weeks.
When I was 18, it didn't hurt that bad.
Well, like your recovery time when you're younger, it's like you can bounce back from fucking anything. But now like sitting there, like I don't care what anybody says. You can fight me on this, but like some tattoos, they're small. Yeah, they're not really gonna hurt. They're gonna be annoying, but like all tattoos hurt. They hurt differently. But as like I'm working on like my stomach and like my arm and stuff, like I'm not afraid or shy to use like any like numbing cream or whatever, because I paid my fucking dues, dude. Like, I can deserve just to sit with like minimal pain as possible, because like it's just like where I started. One of my best friends is a tattoo artist in California. I just started with him, and we just kept building and building, and then I, tattoo culture and stuff. So it just like one thing led to another. I knew I was gonna have a few, but I didn't think I was gonna be like
fully covered.
You
mentioned something when we were talking about the stereotypes of fighters that I kind of want to ask you about. And I noticed that you've done this, but you said that you were speaking at schools and like basically teaching kids like, okay, like don't do what I did and like learn from my experience. I've noticed that you mentor kids. Like a lot of the kids that you have in the gym, you're like making sure they do their homework and like staying out of trouble. And how'd you get into that? What made you want to do that? And like, is it their choice or is it the parents' choice? Because when I was a kid, I'd be like, fuck you, mom and dad. I don't want to do this.
So I think it's better because I am tattooed. And so it all started because I was working with, like, I couldn't tell you how it happened. It just kind of happened, working with like at-risk youth and stuff like that. Like the ones that, like, one of my kids, he had an ankle bracelet when he first came to the gym and now it's off. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just kind of happened because when I was in school, I had like my major was in biology and my minor was in human development, which is like a form of psychology. And like you can go into social work or whatever after that. But like I've always worked with kids teaching Taekwondo. So I was always good with working with kids. So when I was at Streets Fitness, I had a, you know what, as I'm talking about it, I just remembered how. Funny how that works out. So I can tell you where it started. So when I worked at Streets, there was the school Faith Christian Academy, I believe it was. That's like across the street on Ward and 64th. We had this after school program where I had a regular youth program for like the parents who would just have their kids come and do boxing and kickboxing. And then they had a PE class that you can come to Streets and do fitness and boxing and stuff like that. And I structured that class how I would structure a martial arts class, because the one thing I didn't want to have happen was teach these kids how to throw a punch, throw a kick, and all stuff, and they just get in a fight out in the street.
Because they want to like get better at fighting kids in the street.
I have, no disrespect to white people, but I don't need these kids who are like parents coming at me saying like, you taught my child this, you're liable, fa la 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 la. And I'm just like,
Karen.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've had so many parents, like especially from that like area, come to me and like talk about bullying and stuff, and like, oh, like my kid did this, and I was like, so like, what's your fucking point? Like, yeah, they got into it. Like they're kids. They're not gonna be perfect. Like, yeah, your kid is gonna go to school and someone's not gonna like him just because. I'm sorry, that's the reality of how kids are. It happened. You can't protect kids from everything. Like you can't protect them from another. And I always tell the kids,
shouldn't. I don't think you should want to.
No,
they have to figure it out.
It's like, a character building moment.
What kind of person? What kind of adult are they going to be?
Yeah.
You can't just shelter them.
Please everybody. If you want to be like those people pleaser, kind of like a yes man, like just to avoid people not like that. I think that grows a certain level of insecurity too. So like, I always told these kids, I was like, not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean everybody has to disrespect you. So you can like, everybody's had a job where they work with somebody that they don't like, but you can get along because you just have to see him at work. You're not going to see him outside or whatever. He's like, oh, dude, I have to work with fucking Kevin again. Like,
goddamn
Kevin.
Kevin.
And then, but it's not like you still have respect. Like, hey man, like, can you do this? Like, yeah, no, like, no problem, Kevin. Like, no, whatever. But like when I started working with them, they needed more like the structure versus like just to learn how to kick and punch and stuff like that. So I just kind of found this balance between like running a traditional martial arts style, like saying yes sir, no sir, having respect for, your peers, like being respectful to your parents, and that just like transferred over into my youth program that I have now, where if I have a certain hourly rate, but I always tell the parents, like, if they have bad grades, like C's and D's, and they improve their grades, like they get a discount or they get this or they get that. So like not just coming to me and like learning how to do fitness and boxing and stuff like that. Like I have a standard, like an ethics standard, like you have to go to school. Like I would say, if I had to get good grades, you have to get good grades. So like I chose to go back to school. Like I put myself through it, and I make it an even playing field. And then one of my clients, Holly Gummerson, she's an attorney, and she works with Jeffco County. And so she's like, hey, I have a few kids that are like that could use this structure and stuff like that. So she kind of like led me to work with Jeffco County, and it's called Fostering Opportunities Program, where they get, for lack of a better words, troubled youth and stuff like that. And they get them to do, like, some kids go like outdoors or whatever, but a lot of them took to the boxing because like they get in fights anyway. So it's like, but now they come to me and I'm like, all right, here's the rules. You can't fight outside of the gym. Like, you can't do that. Like, if I'm teaching you how to throw a proper punch and then you're getting in fights, like, I can't kick them out of my program, because then they learn how to box. They're mad at me for kicking them out. They're mad at the world and all this other stuff. So I was like, you get in a fight, you pretty much have to deal with me when you come into the gym.
You have to fight me.
Pretty much. It's like, yeah, I had one kid, he kept getting in all these like fights and stuff like that. I was like, you think you're so fucking tough? You're fighting all these like skinny kids. I was like, all right. I was like, I told him to put gloves on. I was like, if you land one punch on me, I was like, then all good. But he like, and then, those chains that we have like hanging at the gym?
Yeah.
Like, I made him do that with like body weights and like burpees, and like I just put him through a workout. And then like I was like, dude, there's always going to be somebody that can beat you. Like, you don't need to continue to fight in order to be tough. Like, there's other ways to show that you're tough. And then so, working with their anger issues majority, like giving them an outlet for their anger. And the one thing that I tell them, because we do mentoring too. So like we have a moment where we talk before the workout, and I just be like, like, what's up? I've
seen that.
Yeah, I structured my tell them. I was like, I will never tell you what to do. You have too many people saying, your parents, your judges, lawyers, social workers. They have so many people telling them what to do, where to be, all this stuff. I was like, I will never tell you what to do. I will give you advice to say, like, I think you should do, or I will give you this like perspective. I was like, was the risk worth the reward? Like, what did you gain after this? And they have to like look back and be like, well, I got in more trouble. I was like, so was it fucking worth it? And they're like, no, but like everybody just yells at them, or I always tell them, I was like, you have a target on your back already. They just want to put you in the like, they just, oh, he got in trouble again, typical. And they write him off. They give him more, jury duty, like, whatever the consequences may be. So I tell him, I was like, yo, I will always be on your side. I will always hear your side of the story first. I'm not going to just be like, oh, he got in trouble, and be like, all right, what happened? Tell me your version of the story. Like, why did this happen? And then I will be the one to be honest and be like, well, do you think if this didn't happen, would it have led to, so we just kind of, I give them the outlet to speak freely and safely. And then I was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I can't tell you what to do, because you're going to do whatever you want, regardless of how I was like, oh yeah, don't do that. Like, I'm just another person telling them what to do. So now when we talk, it's just, they have a better sense of confidence. They have a better sense of like comfort too. Like, they can have somebody to like rely on that's just not going to,
You're like more of like a brother than
exactly. Some of these kids, I'm old enough, it was weird enough, like I'm old enough to be their dad. And so like I have like a 9-year-old and like an 11-year-old, and then they're on a different path, but like I have the same rules and the same everything for all my, so if you didn't come from Jeffco County's Fostering Opportunities Program and you just found me because you saw that, I have a youth program, everybody, whether you're considered an at-risk youth or not, you have the same rules. So I can't treat these kids differently because some get in more trouble than the others.
Yeah, it's only fair that you do that.
Yeah, and it starts this bond because like the parents see the value in it, because these kids aren't paying for it, and like I have to I can't. If I could do it for free, I would, and so like that's.
You have.
Yeah.
I've seen you do it for free.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, but you got to make a living.
Yeah.
I think what you're explaining is a really good way to understand how not just boxing, not just martial arts, but like all levels of fitness, all sports, pretty much anything that requires discipline, like what we do does, will make you a better human.
Yeah, 100%. Is because I think there's also like this you don't want to disappoint the people that are like are looking out for you too, whether you consciously know it or you like, you know, like
Yep.
kids in like football or whatever, they're like, oh, my coach is going to get on me for this one. You know what I mean? So there's like that.
Yeah, I got in trouble a lot when I was a kid, and like going back to shout out Matty Records, my one of my baseball coaches, or Andy Procopio, my lacrosse coach. If we got in trouble, he'd be like, "You fucking kidding me?" He's like, sit on the fucking bench. God damn it. He's like, shit, dude, I want to play.
Exactly.
You know, it's like,
so
stop getting in trouble.
yeah, it gives you a sense of like like I mentioned before, risk versus reward. Like, is it worth it for me to get in trouble because I know I'm going to miss out on this? So like, I think a lot of my friends now were transitioning and like well, I'm not going to say we, cause I'm not, but they're all becoming like parents and stuff like that. So they asked me, it's like, what is a good age for my kid to get into what martial art? And I was like, I don't care if it's karate, taekwondo, tai chi or whatever. It all depends on like the structure of like how good the instructor is, because like you know, I jokingly about like the Cobra Kai, if you get one studio that just teaches people how to become like fighters and like fight outside, you're not going to have any discipline. You're just going to be trained to fight and then be an asshole. So if you find that one school that like has the discipline, plus like little kids, the point of martial arts for small children is not to teach them how to kick and punch. That just comes with it. It's more of like the discipline, like being respectful to your parents, being respectful towards your peers, being a good person. You're going to slip up. No one's going to be a perfect angel, but you still have that range of discipline around you. And that just transfers into everyday life. You know?
Also, like the concept of hard work and
yeah.
like literally getting punched in the face.
Once you realize you're not made of,
and like how that's not like that bad.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Like once you realize you're not made
scary.
out of glass. Yeah. Once you realize you're not made out of glass and you can take a hit, you're just like, oh shit. Like, okay. Like, okay. Fucking.
Yeah, just rip the Band-Aid off.
Movies have ruined fighting for a lot of reasons. Like, yeah, there's dope fight scenes and stuff like that, but like, do you think you can like get kicked in the head 3 times and just go, huh, and continue to fight? Like, absolutely not. No. You get kicked in the head this often or punched in the face like that. Like, you've watched every UFC fight. There's dudes get cracked in the head after like 2 or 3 punches. They're wobbly and they get their, and like the fight's over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like movies, it's like, oh, a 10-minute fight scene happening.
Yeah.
And
There's like,
imagine 10-minute rounds.
yeah.
Like, what the
things that have pissed me off in movies are like that. And like after having surgeries on hernias and stuff, and like literally having my my abdomen cut open, people that get stabbed in movies, and I'm like, you can't move out.
Yeah.
You're like completely incapacitated.
Or they get stabbed like 40 times.
Yeah.
But
And you're
there's like the adrenaline.
what, you just like
aspect,
you like just tape it up with like duct tape and you think you're okay.
He was shot 8 times. He still carried his buddy off the mountain.
Yeah.
the guns that never run out of bullets too. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
that too.
it's a 6-shooter, but he's got 12 shots. And that's weird. But it's like with that whole structure kind of going in, like there's a sense of discipline because you, like I mentioned before, like you understand that you have this ability, you can defend yourself if you have to be. You don't necessarily like
You don't have to go
you
exercise
have to
it.
act, exactly.
Yeah.
And the key is like I'd rather fight somebody who is on the same level as I am, who gives me a challenge and stuff like that. Because like, okay, so there's this event called US Open. They have the Mexico Open and all these different countries have opens. Literally, if I certify you as a black belt, I give you a black belt, you have no experience, you can sign up for US Open.
Oh, you get your ass kicked.
Exactly. So there's like a weeding out phase, like the open rounds. Like you have the kids who like want to try, and then they realize, all right, I'm either not at this level or I need to train more to get to this level.
Okay,
So-
question then.
yeah.
So do you have to do very certain things? Is there a structure to how you get your belts, or can you just give people belts?
Essentially, it's
Essentially.
school by school how they do it. There's Taekwondo. There's like the head governing body and the Kuki one that like has all these forms you need to know. Like each belt has a set of movements. So like white, yellow, orange, all the way to black. So you have to know those significant movements. But then anything after that, it's up to the school what they want to do. Like, oh, my curriculum says you have to learn these kicks for this belt, these punches for this belt, and stuff. So it's pretty much structured by the school itself. Every school I've ever worked at or have gone to has done it differently. But what's consistent is the same belt color.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like jiu-jitsu is a little bit different. So like jiu-jitsu has a fewer belts than Taekwondo does, but the distance between getting your from white belt to black belt in jiu-jitsu is the same as getting your white belt, black belt in like Taekwondo. It takes like 4 to 5 years because like they have smaller belts or not as many belts, but it takes longer. So like jiu-jitsu, you'd be a white belt for like 2 years or so, which in Taekwondo, you can be a white belt for 2 months, but you have all these different belts in between. Jiu-jitsu has like 4 or 5. That makes any sense.
Okay.
So
There's different like stripes or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you start as a white belt and then like every few months you go through different movements. They give you a tape. So you're on track to get you to your, brown belt or blue belt. So it's like, I think jiu-jitsu is white, purple, blue, brown, black. And in Taekwondo, it's like white, yellow, orange, green, purple, blue. There's just so many more colors of the rainbow because it's just a different martial art. You know what I mean? So, but with that and like the structure of everything, it's you kind of see where people's level are at. So like I go to US Open, I usually make it to the semifinals or finals. I've gone. Do you still
do that?
No,
still compete?
I retired 3 years ago because
yeah, let's talk about your like story with all that stuff.
Yeah, it was the hardest to retire from a sport that you've done for 28 years. Like that, no one prepares you for that kind of reality. And it's just really weird because like you go through so many different levels. Like you go through, no, I can still do it. And like, so Taekwondo in general, when I was growing up in the 90s and like early 2000s, it was, the points were scored by referees, like live people. So like there'd be people and they have these clickers. And then if they feel like you scored a point, they would give you that point. I think that was the better way because it was continuous and it was just a fun fight. You spun more. It was just more fun. And then it went electronic. Mm-hmm. So you had these foot pads and sensors and then your chest protector had sensors. So it was
like a laser tag.
That's wild.
Yeah, exactly. And what they wanted to do was like take away like human error because a lot of the controversy. A lot of the controversy was like what you would think was a point versus what the referee gives you. So like example, like UFC, like or boxing, they'll say like, oh, that was an early stoppage. Right. You know what I mean? That's referee's decision. The fighter was fine. So it's just they try to minimize human error essentially. So whatever was a point was what the sensor and registered essentially. But it took a while to get to where it is now. And there was a moment where Taekwondo was just like, it was hard. Like I could show you a video of Taekwondo on YouTube from the 90s. You're like, dude, that's so sick. And I can show you one from like 2000 something. You're like, this is boring. And that was the hardest part because you want to be, an advocate for your sport. But when your sport just kind of like other people, like for lack of better words, ruin your sport and the excitement, they had to change the rules so many times because once it went electronic, it started playing to the taller fighter because they were just using what's called a cut kick and they were just using that and like pushing, tapping to the head.
Yeah, just tap. Like you're not really doing anything.
You're not really doing anything. It was just a boring fight. And then they changed the rules. It's like, all right, you can't do this for so long. You have to do this. And so they tried to get it better. And it's come a long way. But once it went electronic and like I remember going to US Open, my semifinal fight was a kid from China and we're all have to weigh in. We weighed in bantamweight 139 pounds. I'm like 5'8.5", 5'9" on a good day. He was 6'3", 6'3", 139 pounds. I'm like, dude, fuck you.
How?
You have no business being here.
What was he made out of tinfoil?
He's just a skinny dude, and he's gone to be Olympic champion ever since. And they a lot of people like. No disrespect to our friends from China, but a lot of them, like the Taekwondo governing body of China, they were going to like volleyball players and basketball players and trying to get them to switch sports and be like, do you, like if I went to, like, do you want to be an Olympian? Like I can turn you into an Olympian. You're not going to make it in basketball, but I can make you an Olympian in this sport. And then there's a guy from Africa who was a professional basketball player that they transitioned to a Taekwondo fighter because he was just tall and long. Huh. And it was just like this weird, like I just wasn't having any fun fighting anymore because it was just boring. They're 6'3". I had to like, I my whole entire career, I fought people taller than me. That's not the problem, but it was just like the way the fights turn was boring. Like it
sounds like more of like a game and less of a fight.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you just had
like
to
a tag.
Yeah.
Like playing tag.
It just wasn't fun anymore. And so like I wanted to like, I didn't want to fall out of love with Taekwondo. And then I also having like issues with my body. Like I'm missing my labrum from my left hip because of just like bone on bone grinding, just double like abusing my hips because there's a lot of like movement from the hips and like double kicks and stuff like that. So my hip was starting to become injured. And then I had a lot of colon and rectal issues from like just something that happened in 2009. And then I was getting older. So like my recovery was becoming a little different. And like like I mentioned before, I was late on the fitness part of training. Like if I would have started that sooner, like knew how to lift, know how to use kettlebells, know how to use bands, know how to use
it, huh?
I could have prolonged my career. And we've talked about this multiple times at work, like nutrition. We didn't know how to cut weight.
Oh God, yeah, you guys cut weight like wrestlers did in high school, right?
I would be in a sauna, jump roping with multiple layers and and then my only mentality was like, I have to burn more calories than I take in. So I'd go to like Jamba Juice, get like a fucking veggie shake. I don't know what the fuck I'm putting in my body. It's like, oh, vegetables. Okay, this many calories. Oh, it's liquid. Oh, I can burn that off. Okay. And then like I would eat like if I was dying, like maybe like some form of sugar and honey or something in order to just like stay alive. And like I had no structure on nutrition, no structure on weightlifting until way later. And I had to be like self-taught with this because it wasn't just, you Google nutrition for fight and then you got nothing.
No, don't Google shit. We know so much better now. So if you're listening and you're a parent and you have kids that fight, or if you're a kid who's listening who has to make weight, don't do it the old school way. Like reach out to one of us and we'll tell you there's such better ways. Shout out to Jason Phillips Nutrition and NCI. Yeah. Like we know how to cut weight safely.
Yeah.
Now.
And like UFC has even stepped up with their like UFC program, whatever they got going. They released a lot of the information for how to do proper nutrition for weight cutting and stuff like that. And like Joe Rogan on his podcast has always said like people should fight at their true weight. I 100% agree with that. If right now I walk around at 170 pounds or so, bodies by burritos, and get into it. So, but I agree with that. Like people should walk because what the fuck is the point of cutting weight? If I weigh in at 139 pounds and 24 hours later, my fight day, I'm 150.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? Like,
yeah,
I don't understand it. There's only a few people that can just walk onto their weight class. Like even Daniel Cormier, he was heavyweight. He had to cut weight in order to make heavy or even light heavy too. So it's like nutrition takes a big part. Like when I was younger, if I didn't want to cut weight for like a local competition, I would just fight at 155 pounds. The cutoff was like 159.9. You just had to weigh in under 160. I was like, I don't have to cut weight. That's fine. I was like, I'll just do that. It's a local competition. I don't give a shit. And so, me fighting at a local competition, it was just more for like practice or like training for a bigger competition, but I didn't want to destroy my body. So moral of that story, learn how your body works and what works for you and how to feel yourself while you're cutting weight for anything. It doesn't have to be fighting. It can be for, if you're
your wedding.
Yeah. You want to fit in. Yeah. Sounds like a joke, but if you want to fit into that dress, like I saw something on like what celebrities would do when they wrap themselves in like ace bandages and like foil and stuff like just to like sweat it out just to fit into this fucking dress or whatever. And like
just get a coach.
Yeah, like we obviously have a bias as like people in the fitness industry, but like you can invest in nutrition and a coaching, and that's going to prolong so many more positive things than just like a quick.
It's also an education.
Yeah.
So you're learning how to do this for a long time.
You
so
get to take that
when I tell you my program is X dollars for the year, you're not just paying for my time for a year. You're paying for everything I've ever learned.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're paying for every other, like the years to come that this education is going to last you for.
It's funny you say that because it's like the key to that was like what you learned over the years. Like I always had the saying like where you wouldn't hire a chef and have him make you cereal. You know what I mean? Like I can fucking make myself cereal, but like I was having a problem charging people what I thought my worth was when I was doing mitts. And it took like a few people from Relive is like, wait, how much are you charging? I was like, well, it's like only this much. Like, what the fuck is the matter with you? Like, no, I can't hold mitts. Like someone can ask me like, oh yeah, can you hold mitts for me? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That's like took you 28 years and like 10 years of specific training that not everybody has to do it. You need to know your worth and like charge X amount.
Charge
like,
for those 28 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was like the hardest part. But like from when I started fighting to now, like nutrition and the knowledge, like you genuinely, when I say this, we genuinely didn't know what we were doing because we didn't have the ability to learn it. There was some people that were like nutrition specialists and stuff like that, but what a nutrition specialist to me was like Rachel Ray and like these fucking chefs. I was like, oh yeah, like them.
Yeah.
Like,
Gordon Ramsay was a
Gordon-
nutrition specialist.
Yeah. So it like
Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
Flavor Town's gonna tell me how to cut weight. I'm like, all right, but the
awesome.
knowledge that people have now, that's why like you see these athletes continuing to push the limit is because the science behind it is more readily available, and it's not like there's specific avenues for specific athletes that they can go down. It's not one size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah, and it never should be.
No.
That's awesome. All right, so we're at about an hour, and so I think it's time to go into our guest game, and then that'll pretty much call it for us. So we have today's game is overrated or underrated, and I guess you can also answer accurately rated.
Yeah, rated.
But I got 10 for you here, and some of them are just like funny kind of inside jokes, but some I think people will get a good chuckle out of, and we have some serious ones. So this is like quick response, okay? Number 1, Apple AirPods, overrated or underrated?
It depends on your social status, but I think they're overrated.
You think they're overrated?
Well, like it's like, oh, I have AirPods on, like I'm better than you. Like,
okay.
Don't talk to me if you're poor.
Well, you're just saying that because you just got
I just
Apple
got
AirPods.
them, so I leveled up in like the social world. But if they weren't given to me, I would be like, what the fuck do I need Apple AirPods for?
All right, youth fitness, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Underrated. Yeah.
Very underrated.
Chuck Norris's roundhouse kick, overrated or underrated?
It depends if he's wearing jeans and boots. They're underrated because it's really hard to kick somebody with skinny jeans and boots on. But if he's got the proper uniform on, I think they're properly rated.
Okay.
But yeah.
How about Instagram or social media for business? You don't do a ton of it.
I don't do it. So I
thought it'd be a good question for
I
you.
have the mentality like slow on social media, booked in real life. So I think it could be overrated, but if you do it right, it could be highly underrated because like you do a lot with social media and all this stuff, and like it's an avenue for you. But like me, I know how to turn a computer on, and that's about it. So like I see it as a tool, and it's good, but I feel like. And this, I'll make this quick, but like, you know how you see these, like, whether you're male or female, you're just good looking, you're jacked, and then like, oh, follow me for like my fitness tips and stuff like that. And they're just a big presence on social media, but they're not personal trainers in their real life. I was like, you're fucking taking money out of my pocket because you learned a few exercises and you want to monitor. Like, no, fuck you. Like, keep doing your real estate or whatever it is that you do and leave us alone. Like, especially when COVID hit, like, I had to compete with every personal trainer or like influencer on Instagram. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do differently?
Yeah.
And
they were like genetically blessed and they're like, hit me up for fitness tips. You're like, you actually don't know how to do this for other people. You don't know what you're doing. So I would say it's overrated, but it could, if you use it properly and you're a personal trainer, then it's, and you're educated,
then it's rated well.
Yes. Okay. I like that. All right. Next one, green text messages, overrated or underrated?
You're poor. Stop being poor, as Paris Hilton once said. I was like, I don't know. It just frustrates you when someone texts you and you just like green text us. Like, what are you?
It's
poor?
really just
Get
the
an
group
iPhone.
chat thing. The group chat thing is
so frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't really think you're poor if you have an Android. I'm just kidding.
No.
But it's
also Meg taught me this. If you want to group chat with people and one of them has an Android, you just go to WhatsApp.
Yeah. Well, not everybody has one. I have WhatsApp because I have like family that lives in like other countries and stuff, and it's like easier. But like,
her friends, they all literally downloaded WhatsApp to let this one person who had an Android. I was like, you got the best friends ever. Yeah. If that was me,
we wouldn't do that.
Our friends would be like,
out of the group. Fuck you.
Be like, too bad, dude. You're not cool enough, I guess. All right. Number 6, Chuck Taylors for training, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
If you're personally, if you're weightlifting, if you're running and shit, do not run.
If you're running, don't run in Chuck Taylors, please.
Depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, but if you're weightlifting, I don't know. Like, there's the no bull shoes. You can buy shoes that are $150 and they give you an art or whatever. But like, Chuck Taylors, when you're lifting, is just going to give you a flat surface and you're going to get better gains. Like,
I love Chucks.
As we say, like, I don't want to get into the science with you because you're not going to understand it. But, it's really hard for me to explain.
Okay, Jillian Michaels. All right, number 7. I don't know why I put this one on. I just thought I might get a funny response from you. Country music, overrated or underrated?
Severely overrated. Here's the fucking theory. Country music dudes are the first emo kids.
Because it's super emotional.
My heart, so I broke her jaw. Like, it's all she left my heart on the motherfucking road, and I'm crying over you.
They also like talk about what they're doing. They're just like the radio's always on. They're always driving down the highway.
They had their pickup truck, and like I get it, but like I don't get it at the same time.
That being said, you and I were you were way more into the punk rock music scene than I was. Well, I was a pretty fucking emo kid. I was like super emo.
Yeah, it's just like there's some kind of like I fuck with I don't know if she's still considered country or not, but like Queen Tay, like Taylor Swift, I'll fuck with her. Shania Twain, she's rad. Like
Shania Twain's rad.
Yeah, I just learned a couple years ago that Garth Brooks had an alter ego, like Chris Gaines or something like that. It was like a rock alter ego.
Really?
That was the cool. He had like the hair and everything. You look it up. It's the funniest shit. Garth Brooks alter ego. Look it up.
I'm gonna check that out
if you want like a solid 5 minutes of laughter.
All right, number 8. Well, we've kind of already talked about this. Martial arts or fitness for building discipline. Overrated, underrated?
Yeah, underrated.
Yeah,
underrated.
Massively. All right, number 9. Mr. Miyagi's untraditional training techniques.
Which is funny because that's what we call retrospect thought. Like, you just look, like, he tells you all these things and has you do these things, and you're just like, what the fuck is the point of this? And then like later, like, oh.
Yeah, so, it's like, why the fuck am I painting this fence?
Yeah, and like, I was talking to my friend Mo, because we binge watched the new Cobra Kai. If you haven't watched it yet, please do it. It's so cringy and cheesy, but it's so good. But like I said, we used to get in a lot of fights at Del Taco. Just like go to a show, go to Del Taco. It was open 24 hours, and we were under 21, so that's where just all our friends would go after shows. And we would just get in fights with like older dudes who were at the clubs down the street who were like drunk and wanted to get food after. I was like, yo, if only we did Miyagi Do, we would have just been so much better at street fighting. Like, it's so insane.
That's awesome. All right, last one, number 10. And I think this will be a good one. Getting punched in the face or just getting your ass kicked in general at least once in your life?
I think every kid on the planet should get in a fight once. Even if you get your ass kicked or if you win or whatever, it doesn't matter, because what kids need to learn is that like you're not made out of glass. So if you get hit once, you're not going to just fucking implode. 2, I think that transfers into work life a little bit, because I always say like, if you're so used to like getting your way, or like people saying like, there's like I'm not a parent, so I'm not really going to comment on it, but like this new parenting styles of like coddling your child and telling them that, they can do anything and all this other stuff, which is great for their confidence. But like, say like I own a business and I hire this teenager who's never been told no, or never been in a fight, or never done anything. He just like is late or is not doing a good, and they have like the right to work thing, which is like, you can't fire a kid or some bullshit like that. Like if a kid comes in and is late and is not doing it, it's like, dude, I'm gonna fucking fire you. But like now they're just like, oh, it's bad for their like, no, like people have to learn what it's like to
lose.
Essentially lose. Like,
lessons.
Like Michael Jordan said, like he was the best because he's like, lost so many times. Like, Taekwondo, like there's not many people that go undefeated. Like the reason I moved to Colorado is because I got my ass kicked at US Open, which I usually do pretty well at. I literally, the open round, I barely went through. The next round, this kid that I've seen before, he's a kid from Mexico. He literally beat the shit out of me.
Wiped the floor with you.
Yeah, and I was like looking back, I was like, what the fuck happened? Like I don't lose. Like, so it was humbling. It's like, I need to make a change. And so
I think it's almost like if you meet someone, sometimes you can be like, you've never been punched in the face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and someone, I think Mike Tyson said, like, social media is a way for somebody to talk shit and not get hit in the mouth for it.
Yep.
And it's the most truest thing, because anybody can say anything they want behind their keyboard, but like they wouldn't say that to somebody because they're like, oh, I'm not gonna say that to a face. He's gonna beat my ass. I was like, if my mentality is, if you wouldn't say it to their face, you can't say it.
Yeah,
behind a keyboard.
100%.
Like,
let's also just confirm here that like we're not telling kids to go get in fights.
Do not get
we're
in
not
a
like
fight.
we're not like endorsing this.
But I will say, defend yourself, because there are those kids that grow up thinking that, like, their shit don't stink and they just want to fuck with people. So like I always tell my kids, it's like, you cannot get in a fight if you're provoking it, but you can 100% defend yourself. So I always tell them there's two parts of it. There's one that says like, leave me alone. Like, you've already established, leave me alone. You've kept your distance, your hands are up, leave me alone. If they do it again, you say, if you touch me again, I will defend myself. If you vocalize that, that's like your get out of jail free card. It's like, touch me again and I will defend myself. And so at that point, if the kid keeps fucking with him, like, my kid has every right to defend himself.
Game on.
Yeah. So there's, not
and,
everything's black
and to
or
take
white.
that to like you can take that straight to level 10 too.
Oh yeah. Like corporate
you know what I mean?
office too.
You don't need to
It's
like yeah.
It's like, I'm not gonna let you walk all over me, dude. Like, I'm gonna stand up for myself. And it just gives them a way. Like, if you're in the work environment and someone's like, taking advantage of you or whatever, you just learn how to stand up for yourself. And like, your guys' shout out to you guys' podcast, like, how to quit your job and just being like, you don't have to fucking, like, the best thing that I ever did was like starting my own business and like, doing things the way I wanted to do it. Because like, I worked for the Disney Corporation. I worked at a bank. I don't know who the fuck decided it was a good idea to give me a job at a bank, but they did. And
There's
like,
a lot of money in there.
I was like, you want me to fucking do this? And work at Disney? You want me to be polite? Like, get out of here. So like, I've had and like work in hotels and like every customer service job you can think. But like, it's just a way for like, because people will take advantage of you in a workspace. And like, if you've ever been in a fight or in an altercation or anything like that, you just know like, hey, this isn't gonna destroy me. I can stand up for myself, and there's gonna be other avenues for me to like, get out of this shit situation and stuff. So
I'd also say like in a corporate work environment, there's like so many dudes in there that have never been in a fight and are like clearly just like pussy as hell.
Oh, yeah.
But they're like
Bunch of, like,
they do
Brads
that.
and
Yeah,
Chads.
they like walk all over
mortgage
people.
industry.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And just like that knowledge of like, if the curtain was pulled and like all of this was gone away, like you cry like a bitch. So it just helps. I don't know. It kind of, I feel like it helps in those situations, just being like,
you're
all right,
resilient.
I at least know that
absolutely.
I could kick your ass if we weren't in the office right now.
Even the thing is that helped me understand that like I can get through anything is just going through a weight cut. Because like, think about it this way. So I always phrase it this way. Like, would you train 6 months to a year and destroy your body for something that potentially lasted only 6 minutes?
I mean, it depends. Like,
exactly. So
Depends how good that 6
It depends
minutes
how
is.
good that 6 minutes
So
is,
it's
and
like-
will I win something?
So that's the thing. Like, no, you're not guaranteed to win anything, and you potentially gonna lose within the 6 minutes. Like, you have to train 6 months or a year. You have to cut weight. You have to do all this. You have to destroy your body.
Sounds like kind of
for
like what I
6
do.
minutes.
It sounds like bodybuilding.
Yeah, you're not gonna guaranteed. But see, like, bodybuilding is a little bit different than taekwondo, than like martial arts, because that's
You don't get
versus
punched
the
in the
weight.
face.
Exactly. Like, if I'm not on point, this guy's gonna knock me the fuck out, and he wants to, and I get it. Like, it's funny. This is gonna sound so shitty, and I apologize, but there's no other way to word it. If you're on just a different level than somebody, and you're fighting, whether it's like jiu-jitsu or whatever, like, the scariest people to fight are white belts and beginners, because they don't necessarily know what they're doing. There's more chance of me getting injured in this fight than if I fight
like a
somebody
wild
at
exchange.
No, I've heard of this because
my actual level. So like, sometimes if you're at US Open, you just know you're not gonna fucking, like, you want to knock them out, because you just put them out of the misery and then just end the fight.
take yourself out of the risk, because they don't.
Yeah.
Like, someone was talking to me about this, how they'll just kind of like just keep on trying to force or like use their strength to get through something rather than technique.
Exactly. So it's like, imagine somebody like who just learned how to like squat or dead, like they just learned how to do the technique, and they're like, all right, 500 pounds, let's go.
Yeah.
I was like, no, let's start with small plates, and then like technique first. And like, that's the problem with what the society is not everybody wants instant gratification. They're not willing to work through a process to get, to a better result, which is why I feel like my style of training is successful, because like you can't just learn how to throw a 20 hit combination. You have to learn these small baby steps, and there's not really a way to learn it online. Like you can Google how to deadlift, how to squat, you can find all these things and you can get a better idea, but to like throw a proper punch, build these techniques, it takes years of training to do it. And so I take that and I transfer that to when we do like functional fitness, like kettlebell swings and all this other stuff. I was like, dude, it's like a small process. You'll get there. So.
Yep. I love that. I think that's a good way for us to end. That's pretty much all we've got for you guys today. Obviously we have plenty more coming in the future, but dude, thank you
subscribe
so much for coming on, man.
This was fun.
Why don't you let our listeners know, like, where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you to learn more? And and what's some advice for kids or people looking to get into martial arts or develop discipline in general, just like become better humans?
So my business, because of like COVID and everything, and you're going to laugh at me, it is going online. And I used to fucking,
Yes.
I had a flyer that said like online training, nah, dog. Nutrition, nah. Because it was just two things that I'm more of an in-person, but like I understand COVID, and fortunately, like I'm taking a lateral movement. I'm leaving Colorado temporarily and going to California, but I'm taking my business with me. You know what I mean? I have the options to do that. So I do have an Instagram. It's my last name, Robles.bfu. And I will start posting more fitness stuff on there. Took a little bit of a break for COVID and whatnot, like just other shit I was posting, but fitness will come back to that. But you can find me there. You can ask me just where you are in the world listening to this, like what schools I would recommend. You know what I mean? Like you don't just need to ask me for straight fitness advice. You can ask me for like you said, for your kids, what kind of school is going in your area, because we have multiple Facebook groups for like martial arts school in every fucking state. So hit me up on Instagram, send me a DM. Youth programming is just pretty much things are different right now because of COVID and whatnot, but there's other avenues that I have a youth program and I had to change it severely because of COVID and doing one-on-one training. But I would say to the parents, like, having a personal trainer for your 12-year-old kid is not a bougie thing. It's not my kid's got a personal trainer and then he's going to go for his massage. Like, no, it's actually a good way to have them have like a certain structure and mentor youth that's outside of the home and stuff like that. So yeah, hit me up if you have any questions on like youth fitness or youth martial arts or fucking Netflix TV shows and whatnot.
Hell yeah. Anything, really. Anything.
If you want to talk science shit, seriously, like biology, and because a lot of people say they do their research on like current events and like vaccines and stuff like that, like I will debate you on, why vaccines work, what the scientific method is, and why Dr. Fauci isn't an idiot. So if you want to learn about those, I have a degree in biology. I will be very happy to help you with that as well.
Let's go. All right. Dude, thank you again so much.
Thank you guys.
Y'all, if you wanna support us, we really hope you do. Scroll down, give us 5 stars and a review. It's super easy to do. We're still trying to get to 100. We're getting closer by the day. Also, screenshot this episode, share it on your story. That'd be awesome.
Like, share, subscribe.
Hit that
notification button.
As
Bing,
always,
bing.
Swipe up for merch.
Get 20% off code with code.
Yeah, we got merch
Sweet
coming.
Dudes.
We do have merch coming.
Oh,
yep. So
can I get a product code and so I can tell people to swipe up? Use my code.
I will get you a product code. Yeah.
Made it.
So we got Struggle to Strength merch coming. As always, you can find me on Instagram at Josh Levine Fitness. You can find Travis at Travis Hawk Media. Hit us up. We love to hear from you guys. Thank you for tuning into episode 6 of the Struggle to Strength podcast. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.